Training camps around the league are about to kick off. What are these rookies going through? How does it feel to make that transition into the league? Don't roll your eyes, Eric Crocker. It's going to be all right. And then we have head-to-head. Who's going to come out? Who are you riding with for not only this season, but for the career today on Locked On NFL Draft?
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another episode of the Locked On NFL Draft Show. I'm your host, former NFL and AFL defensive back, Eric Crocker. And of course, I'm always joined by my co-host, Ryan Tracy. And man, y'all know what it is. It's Wednesday. So we got our guy, John Harris, with us. Today, he's J Harris Football on Twitter. We got Ryan at Ryan Tracy NFL on Twitter. And of course, at Eric_Crocker on Twitter is myself. We want to thank you for making us your first listen of the day and talk about some good things that's going on right now. Starting with training camp, everyone's reporting. Everyone is excited. Fans are excited. Every team is going to the Super Bowl. The great thing about the NFL, when it's this time of year, pretty much every team has a chance. And I think there was nothing that proved that more than what we saw from Cincinnati Bengals last year. A team that they've really been a bottom-dwelling team. I don't even know the last time they won a playoff game. It's been for decades, right? It's been a really long time. But you go from one of the worst teams in the league, people definitely not think you're a player away, to going to the Super Bowl. Saw it a few years ago with my 49ers, where they're picking in the top 10. They draft Nick Bosa, number 2 overall. They go from that to being a team a few minutes away from winning a Super Bowl. So we say all that to say, John, you cover the Houston Texans. You do radio for them. Talk to us a little bit about what are these players going through right now as they report for training camp, especially these rookies.
Yeah, it's so interesting to be in the building. Today was the report day for the veterans. And so you see the veterans coming in and, Brandon Cooks comes in. He's all business. Some guys, they like to, have a little something to say to the camera about being back. And these guys kind of know us a little bit, so they interact with us. But it was so funny because one guy, I heard it. I didn't see it, so I wasn't sure who said it. But it was a veteran going in. And, Eric, you can attest to this. The first thing he talked about was, happy to be back. Just got to pass these conditioning tests. And as soon as an NFL player or a player of any kind, NFL, Pop Warner, college, whatever level of football you played, when you hear the words conditioning test, you instantly go to that place of, oh, man, it's so awful. And when you hear about the conditioning test, you go, well, that's not that bad. Oh, man. But then you got to go, especially in Houston, you got to go. And we've had triple digits throughout July. I ran the other day outside. It was 105 degrees. It was brutal. And the humidity is so bad. So these guys know they got this conditioning test. And I don't know exactly what the conditioning test is. And it really doesn't matter. It's players have that right in front of them. And they know they're prepared for it. But there's just something about these conditioning tests. And so that's really the first thing. Did they come back to camp in shape? And for rookies, especially ones that are in like our weather climate, they're not used to this. So if you get players like we drafted Tegan Quatoriano from out of Oregon State. He's lived in Oregon his whole life.
Yep.
I'm telling you, the first day is going to be the biggest eye-opening experience to him ever. I remember C.J. Fedorowicz, who played tight end at Iowa. He turned to he was kind of a funny, he was low-key funny. And he turned to one of our trainers at some point during his conditioning test, and he said, hey, can you tell God to turn off the heat for a little bit? And we heard that story and we just died. And it takes so long to get used to that. But on top of that, and you said long days, I don't think when rookies walk in a building, I don't think they understand how long the day actually is. They do some stuff in OTAs and they do some stuff in minicamp. But then all of a sudden you walk in and everything is planned out for you starting in some cases at 6:30 in the morning all the way till 9:30 at night. And there's no break. You're going, whether it's meeting, special teams meeting, practice, review film, getting lunch, making sure that, you're getting a massage or you're getting your body worked on if you need it. Then there's another meeting. Then there's another special teams meeting. Then there might be a walkthrough, which has become, instead of 2-a-days, we don't have those anymore. But that walkthrough becomes that much more important because you're exhausted, and all of a sudden you got to remember everything you just talked about all day long, and then get ready for tomorrow. Then you get a snack, you go, and you don't want to do anything else but go to bed. And then you wake up the next day and you do it all over again.
All over again.
It's just, it sounds, the fans get all excited because, and you mentioned it, Eric, because we all have hope. I mean, even with the Texans, I mean, we've been 4-12 and 4-13, and we got hope. The Jaguars started practice because they're playing early in the Hall of Fame game, and you just see their fans and their media talking about, man, how good Trevor Lawrence looks. You want to believe in that, and you want to be excited, so that hope is there for training camp. And, of course, the reality of the season comes in, and there are injuries, and then there's changes, and who knows what else. And rookies are just, man, they're trying to survive. And the one thing about rookies, too, is they end their college season, however they ended it. They end their college season, they go right to draft prep. Draft prep takes them right to the draft. A week or two after the draft, they come right to the facility, and they start in OTAs mini camps. Then they get about 5-6 weeks. It's the only time they get to catch their breath, and they really can't even do that because they got to start their first training camp, so they got to make a good impression, so they really don't have a break then. Then they play 3 preseason games, 17 regular season games, who knows how many playoff games before they can finally take a break. It's basically 365 days worth of just nothing but being completely focused on your job. And when rookies go from year 1 to year 2, that's why they see that jump, because they no longer have to do that. They've had a break. They finally can, get their body back right after all of that. So they go through so much physically. By the end of the year, when you see a rookie walk in the hallways, there have been times I've just kind of patted rookies in the back like, it's all right, man. You're gonna get to January. You might play a playoff game or two, but it'll be okay. You'll survive. And then you got money now, so you can go on vacation after that. But, man, it is a haul for these rookies, unlike they have any clue. But once they get past it, once they get through it, they get to years 2, 3, and 4. It doesn't get easier, but I think mentally they know what to expect, and it makes it that much more that much easier to get through, I guess, if you will.
Yeah, I know my situation showing up at New York. We ended up going up to like Cortland University or something like that, having training camp up there. And just the days being really long. You talked about, some days, starting at like 6:30 a.m. Dude, we were in the weight room. The rookies, we were in the weight room before then. Yep. I think we were in there at like 5 a.m. We had to lift, and then we had to, rush to get breakfast. Then you had your morning meetings. Then after that, you hit the field. Practice is really turned up. You got the music, you got the fans there. It's exciting. And then once you get done with that, you have to eat your lunch real quick, try to get in a quick little nap. Then you have meetings to watch practice. Then you go back out, you have another walkthrough. Then after the walkthrough, you have dinner. Then after dinner, the rookies have to go back for another meeting. And don't have a special teams meeting as well. It was just really long days. And I remember just getting back to my room at like 10 p.m. And then now I have to study the playbook for an hour, something that I'm trying to really grasp. And all right, hopefully I can study for 2 hours, get to sleep at 5, crash at 10 a.m. At midnight, get to sleep just to wake up and do it all back again at about 5 a.m., man. Just grueling, long days, a lot on your body. But on the one day off you get every 4 days, you want to use that to really take care of your body. They got the masseuse come in and everything like that. And I don't know, Ryan, do you have any experience from either watching training camp or covering any teams or anything like that with it?
My first training camp when I was interning for a team, I was that guy at 5 a.m. There was one assistant strength coach and all of us slappy interns that had to show up. That was my job. It's funny because that time, like you said, you're so burnt out, you're so exhausted. But I find guys are in the best mood in the morning. They're not happy to be awake, but at least they feel a little bit refreshed. And so you can get something done. You can get them sparked up a little bit. And those workouts were okay, but you could see it tail off as camp goes on. And that was the last time I did that at 5 a.m.
And then you have, and I've had experience with this one, and it's funny because I've talked to players over the years. We had Hard Knocks come to us in 2015. And, man, it's one thing. You wake up at, whatever hour they were getting up, and they're walking the building, and there are cameras everywhere. There are dudes everywhere. They're in the equipment room. They're in the locker room. They are everywhere. And so you wake up and you guys as NFL players, you're used to seeing media around, you're used to seeing cameras in some sense, but then Hard Knocks comes in and they are everywhere. Where our radio studio is, NFL Films took that over and literally made it Command Central. And they brought us in there one day, and I'm telling you, this place is maybe 15 by 20. They must have had 30 different screens in that room to monitor everything. They had stuff for days. It was unbelievable the amount of stuff that they had, and then they would just comb through it day after day after day. And, of course, we had Bill O'Brien at that point, so they had to bleep out a lot of that stuff when they had to have the clean version. But then you throw that in the mix. But some of the players liked that. Some of them liked it. Man, some of them just did not want any part of it. So it's always kind of fun when you have something a little different in training camp as opposed to practice, day off, practice. And the joint practices are good too. And Croc, I don't know if you've ever been in those. Those joint practices those things are crazy. We love them, but man, they get absolutely nuts. And the guys are fighting for roster spots and they're fighting on the field and guys are going at. I remember one year in Denver, a couple of linemen ended up going after J.J. Watt. And then we traded for one of them, which always made for a really nice reunion a couple years later. But those joint practices are nuts, man. We won't have any this year, but I look forward to those because they are just absolutely crazy.
Yeah, joint practices definitely get exciting. And we're just talking about a lot of what the rookies are going to be going through. Next up, we're going to pick some rookies, kind of pin them against each other, Mortal Kombat style, right? Mortal Kombat style. Pick one guy for the career who's going to be better. Keep it locked for that. But first, I want to talk to you a little bit about our good friends over at Dave. And, level with me here. We've all been in a situation at some point in our lives when we need a little bit of money. We're a little light on cash, and maybe you couldn't afford to put a few dollars a gallon in your car, right? Like, that is not an ideal situation, and you're wondering how you're going to afford a gift for a date. Well, that's where Dave can come in and help you. If you're living paycheck to paycheck and you're struggling to make ends meet, it can be very stressful. And when you have this unexpected expenses come up, that makes it even tough. But now you have Dave, and they can help you when you are in a pinch and really need it. Hindsight is 20/20, but if you can change the past, you would ask for a little bit of help from your future self, right? Maybe you'd ask to borrow a little cash. Now you can with Dave. Dave is the banking app that can help you get up to $500 instantly with extra cash. That's more money to fill your tank, buy a wedding gift, or catch up on some bills. You can finally tackle those expenses that you've been stressing about without any hangups. And good thing about this, there's no interest or credit checks. Millions of people have already downloaded the Dave app, and you can too to get some financial relief that you need. So if you are in a pinch and you need some extra help, download Dave and think of it as a helping hand from the future you. All right, download the Dave app from the App Store right now. That is DAVE. And sign up for an extra cash account and get up to $500 instantly. For terms and conditions, go to dave.com/legal. Instant transfer fees apply. Banking provided by Evolve, member of the FDIC. Your future self will thank you. And we want to thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen of the day. We're getting into some 2022 draft picks now. And we're going to pin guys against each other, Mortal Kombat style, almost like an either or. But, John, I'm going to start with you because one of these guys is going to involve the team that you cover.
Yeah.
So, get to pick one of these guys for the rest of their career. Who are you picking? Sauce Gardner or Derek Stingley Jr.?
Well, listen, I'd be stupid if I walked in that building and I said, hey, Derek, I took Sauce. So I'm going to roll with Sting on this one. And, you guys know, we talked about this a lot. Eric, there was a mock draft you had done, and you put Sauce there at number 3. And I was not upset at it at all. I thought, man, I would love to have Sauce, but I'm more a Derek Stingley guy. So I'm going to roll Stingley with this one. I think, and again, the thought is you pick this guy for his entire career. I think both guys are actually set up. If Robert Saleh coached for his entire career with the Jets and Lovey stayed for a long time with Sting here in Houston, I still feel good about what Sting's going to be able to do. Now, I do think that Sauce is going to have a heck of a career against the Jets and with the Jets. And hopefully we face him. Brandon Cooks will have a little something for him down the road. But I think I'm going with Sting. I love the ball skills. I've always been a fan of his ability to match and mirror without being a clutching, grabbing kind of guy. And I love the feet before hands, as we've talked
Shots
about
fired.
before. Yeah. So I'm going to take Sting against Sauce in the battle of first-round corners.
I like it. And Ryan, I have a question for you. Who are you going to take out of these two guys? Two defensive linemen. You have Aiden Hutchinson and Trayvon Walker. So Trayvon Walker, number 1 overall pick. Aiden Hutchinson.
We're talking career, right?
Career.
We're talking career. We're not talking about rookie season.
Not talking about rookie seasons.
I'm going to go with the guy that has the best upside physically. Who's the more dominant physical specimen? He's got some learning to do. I'll take Trayvon, thank you very much. And by the way, folks, you want a little treat. This is not a plug for HBO Max or anything, but you can watch Hard Knocks on there. You can find glimpses of probably both John and Eric in those shows if you comb through those seasons.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the great part about Hard Knocks, I'll say this real fast. I got to do preseason game number 4 up in the booth. And so, you know how they have peppered in the radio broadcast? You actually hear my voice on the final episode of 2015, which is pretty cool. So, yeah, I've always got that on my resume. Was on Hard Knocks.
That's awesome. So I'll ask myself this question.
No, I'll ask it. No. I get to pick this one.
Okay, go ahead.
You got to pick this one for the other two. So Ohio State had 2 outstanding wide receivers. Actually, they had 3. Third one's coming. Jackson Smith and Jigba. We talked about him last week. We'll talk about him a little bit later. Garrett Wilson went number 10. I believe it's 10 to the Jets. Chris Olave, the Saints traded up. The Saints traded up to get Chris Olave. Olave, don't know who the quarterback's going to be. Garrett Wilson, you got Zach Wilson, who actually has kind of risen in the eyes of a lot of people lately. I don't know why. You have to pick for your career, Garrett Wilson or Chris Olave. Who are you taking?
Man, I think both of these receivers are terrific. They are a little different. I think they both play with a very unique style that fits today's day and age where they can really do multi-dimensional type things. They can win at each level, whether it's with routes or with speed. They both play extremely fast. But, man, there's just something about Chris Olave, so I'm going to lean that way. And that's kind of contradicting where I had those guys in my draft rankings as far as the receivers go. I had Olave at 6, and I had Garrett Wilson at 3. But I'm going to go with Olave here because I like the landing spot because of who they have at quarterback right now. And I know we're going for careers, so that's not to say that this is who he'll be playing with forever with Jameis Winston. But even then, I think it's going to help him get off to a good start. I think he's in an opportunity to where, if Michael Thomas is around, and he's starting the season off on the PUP list. So we'll see when he does report. But having a receiver like that in the room to really be able to learn from, he has all the ability. He has the speed, decent size, can bulk up. And when I say bulk up, I don't want him to gain too much weight because I think that can start to kind of limit some of the things he does naturally very well. But put on about 5 more pounds, right? Just be stronger in general. We're talking about a big-time player if he has that. So everything's there. I think he has the ability to really be good at the next level.
Okay, so now I'm going to ask both of you guys to pick your Mortal Kombat quarterback. Okay? Pick your fighter. All 3 of these went in the 3rd round. You have one for his career. Matt Corral, who said today if he'd done it differently, maybe he doesn't go to Ole Miss. Desmond Ridder.
Did he really say that?
He did. He said that his quote was interesting because it was something to the extent of, and I'm paraphrasing, that he essentially chickened out from competition. He went and he found a spot where he could start right away. And that if he had to do it over again, he might look somewhere else. So you got Matt Corral. You've got Desmond Ridder, who, in talking to Luke Fickell a few weeks back, he was very, very excited about. Or the guy that I have a feeling I'm going to see at least once this year. And that's when we play the Tennessee Titans, and that's Malik Willis. Ryan Tracy, pick your fighter.
For career stats, I'm taking Ridder, but if I was in a street fight, I'm going with Corral because he looks for contact. He's going to knock somebody's face off. So, yeah. But if we're talking about stats on the field, I'll take Ridder.
Okay.
I hate that we agree on this one, man. We wanted to pick fighters against each other, but I'm going to go Ridder too. And the reason why is because, everybody's not a star in the NFL. And what's going to help you hang on even if you're not a star? And when you're drafted 3rd round, you're not projected to be a star at this level. But can you at the very least be a long-term backup? And some guys can't even do that. When you listen to some of the reports coming out of Atlanta right now when it comes to Desmond Ridder, the leadership abilities that he has, the mental aspect, how he's preparing, things that he's learning, I think that alone can, at the very least, and we're talking about his floor, be a 10-year backup. Right? Now, potentially he can be a starter if he can learn to be a little bit more accurate, to talk about some of his mechanics, clean those things up. That would be great. But at the very least, I'm getting a 10-year backup. So I'm going to go with Desmond Ridder as well.
What about
I think
you,
Ridder would be my pick too. But since you guys both went with Ridder, I'm going to pick Malik Willis. And part of it is just because I sort of fear seeing Willis with Derrick Henry at some point in Tennessee. And we talked about Willis's hang-ups and the things that he's got to work on. But one thing that I actually talked about here in Houston today was with the rookie quarterback, when things break down and you don't see it, run. Just run. Just take off and go. And, Deshaun, I had the opportunity to see Deshaun in 2017 as a rookie. And he would do that when it wasn't there. I remember we were playing Cincinnati on Thursday night. And he had just gotten destroyed by Geno Atkins. I mean, I thought Geno Atkins killed him. I've never seen a quarterback hit that hard. And 2 plays later, it was 3rd and 14, and Deshaun took off. He didn't have anything. He just took off and ran. Bengals were in man, so they had their heads turned to him, and he took off 51 yards for a touchdown. And we were all freaking out like, wait a second, what just happened? And so when things break down, you just run. Well, then teams started adapting like, wait a second, we can't go full-out rush, and then you start getting your sea legs throwing the ball. I don't think Malik throws it like Deshaun does, but Malik, when he gets out of the pocket, can run. And that I fear that more than I do Ryan Tannehill throwing to Robert Woods, Nick Westbrook-Akine, and Treylon Burks, in all honesty. So I think at some point in 2022 season, we're going to see Malik Willis and Derrick Henry, and that could be really not fun for me.
Yeah, Malik Henry, I think that would be good for him having a guy like Derrick Henry in the backfield, and hopefully he gets to play with him, right? If he ends up starting soon, we may see that. When we get back, we will talk about some guys that we're looking forward to seeing in the upcoming college football season heading into the draft. Some players, we're going to talk about them and where they're at and some of our first impressions on those guys. But first, we want to talk to y'all a little bit about betonline.net and how it is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all of your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and they even have golf. All right, BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports wagering information, from live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts. They have you covered with it all. All right, head over right now to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the actions that's happening at BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, y'all. So here we go. We're going to talk about some of these prospects and kind of initial reactions from what we've seen so far from them and maybe what we expect to see later this year. So I'm going to start off here with, we're going to go Bryce Young or CJ Stroud, quarterbacks. What are you guys thinking?
All right, Ryan, I'll tackle this one first, and I'll let you go after that. I actually spent the day yesterday watching these two guys up close. And, I like either or questions, right? You pick one or the other. You pick A or B, pick Stroud or Young. This is one of those where I just go, yes. Because I watch both these guys throw the football, and I'm like, man, it's just it's so beautiful, which also makes me envious too, because these two kids come from California, as does DJ Uyunglele. These guys are coming from California. Like, where are all the quarterbacks that are coming from the state of Texas? Like, what the heck? So hopefully Cade Kublik knows some stuff at Clemson. That's a different story altogether. But I'm going to go with Bryce. I like Bryce. I like his demeanor. I think it is a calm, cool demeanor. He still can make every throw. I think his vision, his gamesmanship, I really like. But, man, it's really hard to watch CJ Stroud and go, I'm picking somebody else over him. The ball placement, and I was thinking of a player comp for CJ Stroud, and it may sound weird right off the bat, but when you think about the biggest trait for both, Joe Burrow and CJ Stroud are very familiar or very similar because of where they put the ball. They're two of the best that I've seen with ball placement. I don't know how many times I'm watching CJ Stroud. I wrote down great ball placement, and I was like, this reminds me of Burrow. but I'm going Bryce Young over CJ through the 2022 season, and we'll see where that puts us in the draft and where they're going to end up going. But I'm going to ride with Bryce Young through the season.
I don't think Bryce Young's size is that big a concern. I hear that all the time. He's just too small. We don't know if he can. He rises to the occasion. I agree with you. I like CJ Stroud and what he does. I think when you look at the targets that they had, I think he probably got a little bit more help when you look at it overall. I know Jameson had the injury and all that, and obviously Mechie did as well. But that's not really what it's about. It's how do you adapt when things don't go right? And I have a little bit more faith that right now, as they stand today, that Bryce Young's able to adapt to game situations a little bit better. And that's the key trait for me, that he goes from being just a thrower of the football to a guy that leads a team when the chips are down. And that's what I'm looking for. So I'm riding with you right now as well with Bryce Young. We'll see what happens after this next season.
It looks like Bryce Young's 3 for 3 because I'm riding with him as well. I believe between the two quarterbacks, I saw the least amount of inconsistency from Bryce Young. And a lot of people forget about CJ Stroud being benched early on. And I'm trying to figure out if maybe they want to go with a different quarterback. And I admire him for going through that adversity and really kind of playing to a really higher level. But we didn't see those peaks and valleys from Bryce Young at all. You know, it's very consistent play. You talk about kind of who he reminds guys of, and, you know, I talked about it before, man. Skinny Russell Wilson right there. Moves around. He's almost like Houdini, making plays on the move with his legs. He's throwing the ball. He's a little slim, but, you know, add a few pounds. I talked about Chris Olave. Hey, man, you know, I don't want him to add too much weight. Well, at quarterback, I think Bryce Young, he can definitely take on an easy 10 pounds and still be able to move very fluidly. So he makes all the throws. Some of the things I'm hearing right now, the biggest concern is the arm strength. So is the arm big enough at the next level? Would that be something that potentially kind of holds him back? If not, we are talking about somebody that is definitely worthy of the top pick. And if I had to pick between the two quarterbacks, I'll definitely go with Bryce Young as of right now. But think more upside. If CJ Stroud turns on that consistency, I'm pretty sure everybody will consider him probably the first overall pick in the 2023 class.
Yeah, it's that one. Of course, I'm keeping a close eye on it. Hopefully, it becomes a moot point because Davis Mills knocks it out of the park. But if he doesn't, then those two guys are going to be in a conversation to potentially join me here in the 7-1-3. All right, I'm going to go this time, and I'm going to throw two Clemson guys at you. Play different positions, but they're both on the defensive line. Coming off an ACL tear in the middle is Brian Bryce, 6'5", 300 pounds, extremely athletic, number one overall recruit a few years ago. On the outside, at 6'5", 275, which, holy smokes, that's a big dude out on the edge, but he offers a lot of versatility, is Myles Murphy. Croc, you go first. You taking the interior, Brian Bryce, coming off the ACL tear, or you going Myles Murphy, the underrated edge player?
You know, it's always tough when you have guys coming off of injuries. You don't know exactly how they're going to recover, especially when they're in college. They have all kind of other things going on. School they're dealing with, getting pulled here and there. Maybe they have this little girlfriend that takes their attention away from their recovery process. But I'm still going to bank on the guy from Clemson being heady enough to say, you know what, this is important for me. I'm going to make sure I get back to where I was. You talked about him being a really high prospect coming out. Big guy, moves well in the interior. So I'm going to have to go with Bryce.
I got to say, ask Justin Ross how recovery from injury at Clemson goes.
Ooh.
I'm just going to tell you because the poor kid got put to IR yesterday. This is stuff that affects you, not just for your college career, but on and on and on. So until I see it, I can't see it. I'm going to go with Myles Murphy because I like the versatility, and I think he's a more raw prospect. He's got more upside right now that he could make changes in the next 3 weeks, in the next 3 months, and could be much higher in the conversation when we get around to it back in February.
I think it's easy to say Bryce just because he was the number one recruit in the country, and he was exceptional as a true freshman. And he was good before he got hurt last year. I watched Murphy today, and I kind of had my eyes on him and thought, man. And it actually was – I was watching and studying Bryce, and my eyes kept going to 98. I'm like, dang it. This guy, I kept thinking, well, maybe he's not a fit on the outside. And he's definitely a fit on the outside. If he's 275 with the ability to bounce inside, outside, I think I'm going to roll with Myles Murphy. And I've kind of gone back and forth. In fact, I changed it. I'm getting my Harris 100 together. And at first I had Bryce rated a step or two higher. And then I'm like, man, I'm rethinking that. Maybe I should put Miles ahead of him. And I think I'm going to settle on that. I think I'm going to have Murphy end up going ahead of Brian Broussais, which I think some people will look at with a side eye. But he's coming off an ACL tear, and you think, ACL, we've seen a lot of guys come back from that. But, man, Murphy on the outside is just a different beast, man. At 275, he doesn't look it until you see him up closer. You're like, oh, yeah, he's 275, but he moves like he's 245. And I think that's going to end up being what puts him high up in this conversation in 2023.
Yeah, Clemson, they're definitely known for some of these defensive prospects that have been coming out lately. The offensive guys, the quarterbacks, we've seen those guys, the receivers. They've almost been wide receiver U with Sammy Watkins, DeAndre Hopkins, right? They've had some talented guys coming out of there. T. Higgins and what he's done. But that defensive side of the ball, we'll see if they can get some big-time prospects there. And I'll tell you what helped these defensive prospects from Clemson, having a good offense. Can DJ Uiagalelei
Close enough. You did, DJ.
All right, can the quarterback really help get this team over the top? That's probably something that we're going to be discussing on later episodes of Locked On NFL Draft. But that's going to do it for this episode. We definitely want to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. And for your second listen of the day, you got Locked On Chiefs with Ryan Tracy. He's talking about everything that's going on with their camp right now. You got Locked On 49ers with myself and Brian Peacock discussing, hey, Trey Lance. He's the guy. That's their quarterback. They found their guy. We're talking about all that and more and everything that John Harris is doing. footballtakeover.com. Make sure you check that out. Also, make sure you listen to him on his Texans radio station and everything he's doing covering that team. But that's going to do it. And we'll see y'all tomorrow when Rob Ring joins us. Till then, we're out. Peace.